Hello friends, welcome to Vidhi Judicial Academy. My name is Vinayan and today we are here with a brand new episode, a lecture series on the most important judgments of the Supreme Court for CLAT PG 2024. We'll start with the first case. The name of the case is Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. It's a very important case with a 100% possibility of being asked in the next examination. What does this case deal with? The case deals with the Election Commission appointments. We know that the Election Commission consists of, presently it consists of a Chief Election Commissioner and two other election commissioners. That is the composition of the Election Commission. This case deals with the appointment of these posts. First of all, when we talk about the case, the name of the case is Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. Further, we have seen in the previous year papers that often the questions are asked just from the details of the case, like when was it decided? 2nd March 2023. Further, what was the strength of the bench? It was a 5-judge constitutional bench. It is very important. Further, who was the author? Who authored the judgment? The judgment was authored by Justice K.M. Joseph. Sometimes questions are made in a form that which of these judges, इनमें से कौन से जज बेंच का हिस्सा थे या नहीं थे? We should know the names of all the 5 judges. First of all, Justice K.M. Joseph, as it is, we have seen that he is the author of the judgment of Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. Secondly, Ajay Rastogi, Anirudh Bose, Rikish Roy and C.T. Ravikumar, Justice C.T. Ravikumar. These are the 5 judges which constituted the bench, the 5-judge bench in the case of Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. Now, what was the background of the case? This case was actually a PIL. We have to remember it was a PIL. We all know PIL means public interest litigation. It was a PIL that was filed by Anup Barnwal in the year 2015. What was the ground of the PIL? The ground was that the system of appointing the members of Election Commission of India is unconstitutional. That was the ground that was taken in the PIL filed by Anup Barnwal. Anup Barnwal ने जो PIL फाइल करा था उसमें बोला गया कि जो current system of appointment है of the election commissioner, the chief election commissioner and the other election commissioners is unconstitutional. He further said that it violates Article 324 of the Constitution. Now, Article 324, Clause 2 specifically becomes very important for us. What is Article 324? What does it deal with? First of all, Article 324 is contained in Part 15 of the Constitution. If we look at the Clause 1 of Article 324, it deals with powers and functions. It deals with powers and functions of the Election Commission. What is relevant for us is the Clause 2. Clause 2 is the relevant part for us because the whole judgment was based on this article. Article 324 Clause 2 says that the Election Commission shall consist of the Chief Election Commissioner and such other number of election commissioners, if any. As we have seen, as we all know, the Election Commission of India, presently it has a Chief Election Commissioner and 2 other election commissioners. Okay. The issue is related to the appointment of these posts. Article 324 Clause 2 says that as the President, Article 324 Clause 2 says that the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners shall, subject to the law made by the Parliament, be made by the president. Who would appoint the chief election commissioner and other election commissioners? The president. The president. But it has been made subject to the law made by parliament. It has been made subject to the provisions of any law made in that behalf by the parliament. Okay, this is what the provision is that is challenged in this present case. Article 324 clause 2. Now, what was the legal issue involved? The legal issue that was involved was, does the current process for appointment of chief election commissioner and other election commissioners violate the right to free and fair elections? The right to free and fair elections, which is also a part of the basic structure. It is the part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Does the present system violate the right to free and fair elections? What was the system? What was the process of election? See, Article 324 clause 2 said that the appointment of these posts shall be made by the president, but it shall be subject to the law made by the parliament. But the parliament, it has been 73 years since the inception of the Constitution, and there was no law made by the parliament. Therefore, the system that was being followed was that the president was making the appointment, okay, but we all know that the president acts on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So therefore, the chief election commissioner and the other election commissioners were being appointed by the president on the recommendation of the prime minister and the Council of Ministers. This was the system that was being followed before this judgment. What was the issue with the system? See, the thing is that the appointments were being made by the president on the recommendation of the prime minister and the Council of Ministers. Okay, it was being made on the advice that was rendered by the Council of Ministers and the prime minister. An important article comes here into play. That is Article 74 of the Constitution. Article 74 of the Constitution, and especially after the 44th Amendment 1978, has made the advice that is given by the Council of Ministers and Prime Ministers binding on the President. So basically, President cannot refuse the advice that is being rendered by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. So ho kya raha tha? Therefore, whoever the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, whoever would be suggested by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers would be made the Chief Election Commissioner or the other election commissioner whatsoever. So basically what was being happening, the appointments were being made by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. The executive had an unbridled power in the appointments of an important post, a pillar of democracy, that is the Election Commission of India. The executive were making the appointments. Okay, so the executive were given a very large power under the system that was being followed before the judgment. What were the observations of the Supreme Court? We all know the important part is this. What was the observation of the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court observed that there was a legislative vacuum, first of all. 73 years. For 73 years, there was a legislative vacuum. What legislative vacuum is being talked about? The Constitution came into force in 1950. Okay, we all know 26 January 1950. Article 324 clause 2 said the president will make an appointment of the chief election commissioner and other election commissioners, but subject to the law made by parliament. And the parliament had not made any law. So therefore there was a legislative vacuum, first thing. Secondly, it was further observed, a very important, the most important observation, that the present system, the appointment system that was being followed, was violative of free and fair elections. A very important observation made in the case named Anu Bandwal versus Union of India. The Supreme Court further observed that there should be an independent committee. There should be an independent committee for the appointment of election commissioners. Okay. So what was the decision? On the basis of this observation, what did the Supreme Court decide? First of all, in reaching to the decision, the Supreme Court referred to three documents basically. Okay, three documents were referred for reaching the decision. The first is the Constitutional Assembly debates. The secondly, very important, the Dinesh Goswami report on electoral reforms of 1990 and the 255th Law Commission report. These were the three documents that were referred by the Supreme Court in reaching the decision in Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. What was the decision? It was held that till the time parliaments enact any law regarding the appointment of the members of Election Commission of India, the appointments shall be made by the president on the recommendation of a committee. Okay, there shall be a committee which would make recommendations to the president, and that committee, this is the operative part of the judgment. This is what was held in the judgment. It said that there shall be a committee, and who shall be the members of the committee? The committee shall comprise of the following members. First of all, the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition, and the Chief Justice of India. As we can all see, the Chief Justice of India. The judiciary came into the play to keep a check on the executive. That was the intention behind this. So this is what was held by the judgment, held by the Supreme Court in the judgment of Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. But is that it? No. As we have all seen that there has always been a tussle between the Supreme Court, that is the judiciary, and the executive. So basically, as we all know, there has always been a tussle between the judiciary and the executive and the legislature. So what happened? There is a recent development that took place after the decision of Anup Barnwal. The parliament, who was dormant for 73 years before the judgment was passed, suddenly enacted a law. What was the law? The Chief Election Commissioner and Other Election Commissioners Act 2023, which deals with the appointment conditions, service and terms of office of the members of Election Commission of India. Now, what does this act say about the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and the other election commissioners? As you can all see, this act completely changed the judgment that was rendered by Anup Barnwal, and section 7 of this act says that now the appointments will be made by a selection committee, and the selection committee shall consist of the Prime Minister, who will be the chairperson, the Leader of Opposition in the Lok Sabha, and a Union Cabinet Minister nominated by the Prime Minister. You can all see that again the executive has got an upper hand in the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. So that is what the judgment and what followed after the Anup Barnwal judgment. An important thing here is, under which provision of the Constitution is Supreme Court empowered to fill that legislative vacuum and render such a decision? It's an important thing which was used by the Supreme Court, an important provision that was used by the Supreme Court, that is Article 142. Article 142 of the Constitution. What does Article 142 say? Article 142 says that the Supreme Court can pass any orders for the purpose of doing complete justice. Article 142. This provision was used by the Supreme Court in rendering the decision of Anup Barnwal versus Union of India. A very important decision which has a 100% probability to be asked in the upcoming examination. Thank you.